You check your phone before you fall asleep. Every light in your house is off, except that one small glowing rectangle in your hand. You trust that when you wake up, everything will still be here. The walls, the doors, the people you love, still breathing in the next room. That trust is so basic, you never think about it. But on the morning of December 5th, 1872, a ship called the Celeste proved that trust can vanish faster than anyone could imagine. And the real answer to what happened is far stranger than any ghost story. The Dei Gratia was 300 miles from Portugal when her crew spotted something wrong. A ship, drifting, sails half set, some torn, flapping loose in the wind. No flag, no signal, no one at the wheel. Captain David Morehouse knew the vessel. He knew her captain, Benjamin Briggs, a careful man, a religious man, not someone who abandoned ships on a whim. So Morehouse sent men aboard. What they found made no sense then. It still makes no sense now.
The cargo was untouched. 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol sat exactly where they'd been loaded in New York. The captain's cabin held his family's belongings, still in place. A child's toys, a sewing machine with a thimble resting on top of it, as if someone had simply set it down mid-stitch. 6 months of food and water remained in storage. The ship's only lifeboat was gone, and every single person aboard, Captain Briggs, his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and 7 crewmen, had vanished without a trace. No bodies, no blood, no sign of a struggle. Just an empty ship sailing itself across the Atlantic like a house with the lights left on and nobody home.
Morehouse and his men searched every inch of the Celeste before they dared touch anything. The ship's papers were gone, all except the captain's logbook, which stopped 9 days earlier with a routine entry about weather and position. Nothing alarming, nothing hinting at trouble. The last recorded line simply noted the ship's course, as if the next morning would be no different from any other. Below deck, the crew's quarters looked lived in. Blankets still tangled, a pipe left resting on a shelf. Whatever happened, it happened fast enough that nobody stopped to pack. One clue stood out to investigators at the time, and it's still central to every serious theory today. The ship's pumps had been partially disassembled, and there was water in the hold. Not enough to sink her, but enough to worry a cautious captain. Some historians believe Briggs may have misread that water level entirely, using faulty or damaged equipment, and convinced himself the ship was taking on more water than she actually was. Others argue the water was simply a normal side effect of whatever violent event happened next. Either way, when the official inquiry opened in Gibraltar under a magistrate named Frederick Solly Flood, investigators expected to find evidence of piracy or murder. They found none. Flood grew so suspicious of Morehouse's own crew that he briefly entertained conspiracy theories involving the Dei Gratia's sailors themselves, before eventually admitting he had no evidence for anything except a genuine, unexplainable mystery. For a century and a half, that mystery has refused to close. Pirates were an early theory, but pirates steal cargo, and this cargo was worth a fortune, sitting there, untouched. Mutiny came next, but mutineers don't leave provisions behind and vanish into the ocean with no boat and no plan. Sea monsters, water spouts, a sudden earthquake beneath the hull. Writers loved these ideas because they were dramatic. Scientists dismissed them because they didn't match the evidence. So what actually happened? To understand it, you have to go back to what was sitting in that cargo hold. Industrial alcohol isn't like the alcohol in a bottle of wine. It's raw, unrefined, and it leaks easily through the seams of wooden barrels, especially on a long ocean crossing where the ship rocks and the wood swells and shrinks with the changing temperature. As that alcohol seeps out, it turns into a vapor. And vapor, trapped in a wooden hold, behaves less like a smell and more like a fuse.
In 2006, a chemist named Dr. Andrea Sella, working at University College London, decided to test this idea directly instead of just theorizing about it. He built a scaled replica of the Mary Celeste's cargo hold. He couldn't use real barrels of raw alcohol safely, so he substituted butane gas and paper cubes to stand in for the wooden casks. Then he lit a spark. The result surprised almost everyone watching. A massive fireball rolled through the replica hold, bright enough to look like a genuine explosion. But when the flame cleared, the paper cubes weren't even singed. No soot, no scorching, no blackened wood. The blast came and went in a fraction of a second, a wave of intense heat followed immediately by relatively cool air. That detail matters more than it sounds like it should. Investigators who first boarded the Mary Celeste never found evidence of fire or explosion. No charring, no burn marks anywhere in the hold. For decades, that absence of damage was used to rule out an explosion entirely. But Sella's experiment showed something nobody expected. A pressure wave explosion made of vapor and flame could happen violently, terrifyingly, and still leave the wood completely untouched. Picture what that means for 9 people below decks on a rolling ship in the middle of the ocean. A crew that likely had little formal education, working by lamplight, smelling faint fumes they couldn't identify. Then, in an instant, a flash of blue flame and a wave of heat rips through the hold. The hatches blow open. Doors that were shut moments earlier are suddenly hanging loose. No burns, no visible cause, just noise, heat, and the absolute certainty that the ship is about to explode again, and this time it might not survive. You don't need a sea monster to explain panic like that. You just need physics that 1870s sailors had no way of understanding. Nearly 2 decades after Sella's original experiment, researchers built on his work, using modern tools he didn't have access to in 2006. A team including a researcher named Robotham applied 21st century computational fluid dynamics, essentially powerful simulation software that models how gases move and ignite in enclosed spaces, along with high-resolution pressure sensors capable of measuring blast force with far greater precision than earlier tests allowed. The newer modeling didn't just repeat Sella's demonstration, it quantified it, mapping exactly how a vapor cloud of that size, in a hold of that shape, would behave under pressure. The conclusion held up. A short, violent, scorch-free explosion was not just possible. It was consistent with everything investigators observed in 1872.
So here's the likely sequence historians and scientists now favor. Somewhere in the mid-Atlantic, leaking alcohol vapor built up inside the sealed hold. A spark, maybe 2 loose barrels grinding together in rough seas. Maybe a lantern, maybe a crew member checking on the cargo, ignited it. The resulting flash terrified Captain Briggs enough that he feared the ship's structural integrity was compromised, or that a second, larger explosion was coming. He made the only decision that seemed rational in that moment. Get everyone into the lifeboat, tie it to the Mary Celeste with a length of rope, wait at a safe distance for the danger to pass, intending to reboard once it was clear. Except the rope didn't hold, or a sudden squall separated the two vessels. Either way, the wind caught the empty Mary Celeste's sails, and she sailed on without them. 9 people, alone in a small boat in the open Atlantic, 400 miles from land, with no way to signal for help and no way to catch a ship that no longer had anyone steering it.
The Mary Celeste, meanwhile, kept moving, self-steering more or less, for who knows how many days, drifting roughly along her intended course until the day Gradia's crew spotted her, empty and eerie, still technically headed toward Europe, with no one alive aboard to see it happen. It's not a ghost story. It's a story about how invisible a real danger can be, and how a decision that made complete sense in the moment can turn out to be the one mistake nobody survives. There's something almost unbearably human in that. Captain Briggs wasn't reckless. He was, by every account, methodical, devout, and careful with his family's safety above all else. That's exactly why he made the call he did. Not panic without reason. Panic with a very good reason, based on incomplete information, in a world before anyone understood vapor pressure or flash explosions.
You've made that decision too, just with lower stakes. Left a room because a smell seemed off. Pulled over because a noise under the hood sounded like the engine was about to give out. Evacuated a building because an alarm went off, even without seeing smoke. Every time you were reading warning signs your training or your instincts told you to trust, even without full information. Usually you're wrong, and life goes back to normal 5 minutes later. Benjamin Briggs was right that something dangerous had just happened in that hold. He was simply wrong about what to do next, and the ocean gave him no room to correct course. That's the part that makes the Mary Celeste different from every fabricated ghost ship legend that grew up around it later. The fiction, much of it inspired by a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle, who published a sensationalized short story loosely based on the case years afterward, gave the world sea monsters and mutinies and curses. The real explanation, pieced together more than a century later by chemists testing vapor and flame in a laboratory, is quieter and somehow more disturbing. 9 people made one reasonable decision in a genuine emergency, and the ocean simply didn't give them a second chance.
The ship herself was eventually recovered, repaired, and put back to work, passing through a string of owners who seemed to have unusually bad luck with her. Wrecks, injuries, financial ruin. Until 1885, when her final owner deliberately grounded her near Haiti in a failed insurance fraud scheme. Even her ending was almost too fitting. A ship once found perfectly intact, with nobody aboard, finally destroyed on purpose by someone trying to profit from her. You'll probably never sail across open ocean in a wooden ship carrying barrels of raw industrial alcohol. But you trust invisible systems every single day, the same way that crew trusted their hold was safe. The wiring in your walls, the gas line to your stove, the brakes in your car, the ones you can't see wearing down. Modern life is full of forces you can't observe directly, quietly building toward a threshold, until one day, without warning, they cross it.
The Mary Celeste's crew
didn't disappear because the ocean is haunted. They disappeared because they trusted a system that failed silently, and they made the only choice that seemed to make sense at the time. It just turned out to be the wrong one. And that, more than any ghost or monster, is what should make you check the lock on your own front door tonight.